Need for Speed Most Wanted from 2005 is a game most of you watching this review remember. It was, in my opinion, the best game in the Need for Speed franchise. If you've never played this game or you just want to take a stroll down memory lane, stick with this review to find out more. As stated, Need for Speed Most Wanted was one of the most successful and best games in the series. This is an arcade racing game at its core. In terms of the story, it has a story, and it's told through pre-rendered semi-realistic cutscenes. Basically, you're an underground racer, a dude by the name of Razor took your car, and it's up to you to climb the ranks of Blacklist 15 racers and take down Razor who stole your car. That's the most basic premise. This time around, this is a sandbox experience, sort of. You get a whole city to play around, but it's a very empty city. Beside races, shops and a few other events, there's not much to explore here. But that's fine, considering this is a racing game, and a game from 2005. What I do appreciate is the fact that all the races are from this big open world, meaning that if you don't use the quick travel option, you'll get to know the city, and the paths in races will be easier because you'll know the layout. So you have a list that's called the Blacklist 15. 15 racers you have to beat in order to finish the game. Sounds easy, but it's not. To challenge an opponent, you have to first meet a certain criteria, do a certain amount of races, milestones, and have enough bounty. And you do that for each 15 opponents. Races themselves consist of standard circuit races, sprint races, which is just racing from point A to point B. Then there's speed trap races, which are my personal favorite. Basically, you have a dozen radars across the track and you compete with other opponents who will cross the radar the fastest. And it all multiplies at the end of the race, and the player who has the most kilometers win. Then there's lap knockout, which is basically just a circuit, but with each lap the last driver is eliminated. You also have drag races, which is a high speed race from point A to point B, with you having to change gears and avoid incoming traffic while doing so. I don't like drag very much, not because it's stupid, but because of fiddly controls in this mode. And finally there's tool boot races, which is just point-to-point race with checkpoints, aka tool booths, in between, which give additional time. Races are awesome in my book, and I really enjoy them. The controls are tight, the difficulty is just right, and the most importantly, it's fun. But the real fun comes from cops. You destroying police cars, blockades, driving fast, all raises bounty. The higher the bounty, the harder the cops will try to catch you. Also, a certain bounty is a requirement for every boss, so you'll have to get into run-ins with cops, whether you like it or not. Being chased by angry cops and smashing their blockades is extremely fun, also quite challenging at higher levels of heat. On level 1 it's very easy to avoid cops, and I just played around with them. Level 2 is a bit more harder, but still overall pretty easy. On level 3 things start to get tough. Then you have supercar cops chasing you, roadblocks become more structurally reinforced, and they're generally more aggressive. Level 4 is the same as level 3 but harder, and there's a helicopter chasing you as well. Also, heavy SUVs also try to ram into you. Blockades become more tougher and often with spikes, which are an instant game over. And level 5 is pure madness. More aggression, and cops now drive super fast Corvettes. You'll need to run from the cops. To do that, one of the methods is using pursuit breakers, which are breakable obstacles that crash on whoever is chasing you. After you run away from the cops, you'll enter cooldown period. You can use hiding spots which speed out the cooldown meter. You can upgrade the living shit out of your car, in terms of performance and in the visual department. When you take down a boss, you'll get a chance to get a pink slip to his car. I mostly relied on pink slips early on in the game, since you won't have enough cash to buy a decent car. Later on, you'll get a lot of cash and you can buy the car you want from the shop. I mostly ran with Lamborghini Gallardo and Murcielago later on in the game. There's only 32 cars, but it's enough and you can customize each and every one to your liking. There's also a feature called Speed Breaker. Basically, with the press of a button you can slow down time. Very useful in police pursuits and blockades. The soundtrack is great in this game, a mix of rock, metal, punk, electro and rap. But it's only an hour long, and considering this game is probably gonna take you around 25 hours to complete, it can get annoying pretty quickly. Graphically speaking, the game looks good for its time. It has a real color palette and it can feel a bit grey sometimes, but it's the styles the dev chose. I've played it on a PC. I'm happy to report that it works on Windows 10 without issues. It's a game from 2005, so it's gonna run on a potato basically. Max resolution I got it to run is 1280 by 960. I think you can get it to run at 1080p with some mods, but I haven't messed with that. Need for Speed Most Wanted is one of the best games that came out from Electronic Arts. If you haven't played it, you really need to. If you've played it, you could use a refresh. If I had to give a score to this game, I'd give it 9.3 out of 10.